No warm up at all. What am I doing?
All right, guys. This is strength and conditioning coordinator Aaron Feld, a man who needs no introduction. Coach, we'll go right into questions from our media here.
Let's do it.
So, Coach, how have you been enjoying your time at Miami?
I love Miami. The weather here is phenomenal.
Tell us about this group, just how proud you must be of the gains that they made. So many kids were bragging about it.
Well, they should brag because what they did is really special. We got a group of guys that you came in and immediately bought in, hungry to learn. I met with 100% of our kids. Every single one of them said something along the lines of wanted to be pushed, wanted to be held to a high standard. And when you got guys that are coming in and they're telling you that instead of telling them that they have to be held to a high standard, that we're going to hold you to a high standard, it makes it really, really easy.
Keontra Smith, I think, went from 205 to 230. So it's like a complete transformation for a linebacker. In terms of weight gain or maybe the biggest physical change, would he be at the top of the list among the kids individually?
I mean, it'd be hard to put a single person at the top of the list. I mean, everybody transformed. I mean, I think it's as much of an addition of our head nutritionist, Megan Turcott. She's phenomenal at what she does, and that's just been a huge key for these guys learning how to eat and being, she calls it plate coaching. Like every time they put a meal together, she's helping them eat, and so they do that over and over and over, and all of a sudden they're making good decisions when they're not here. I mean, nutrition's as big of a factor in those kind of gains as anything.
What's it been like working with the new sports science department? How have you guys been kind of working together?
Well, Eric Renahan's a game changer. We thankfully we got him, from the NHL, Stanley Cup winner, from a championship organization. Championship DNA runs deep in him, and that's the hardest thing to find. Championship culture. It doesn't matter the sport or whatever. He's done a phenomenal job. We have a lot of questions as strength coaches that we're seeking answers for, and he's the answer guy. So we ask questions. He finds ways to answer those questions, so that we're not spending all of our time looking for answers. We spend all of our time building relationships with our players and pushing them and checking on them, and then we have somebody who's smarter than me out there looking for the answers to the questions that we have.
And what data that you've gotten from them has been like the most useful for you guys?
I mean, how long is this interview?
As long as you want.
Several things that we look at. We build force velocity profiles using a variety of different metrics to help us figure out where our guys are good at sprinting, where they're powerful, where they're strong, where they need to improve. For most guys, it's strength. For some guys, it's power. For some guys, it's running mechanics. And then you have many different metrics from bar velocity to jump metrics on force plates, trying to find imbalance. Again, whether they're good at creating force, decelerated force, or they're better at creating accelerated force, or where they do better from transitioning from one movement to the next versus creating movement for a dead stop. Those types of things. We train attributes. I tell everybody all the time, like our job, everything we do, every single thing we do is specifically designed to make you a better football player, and we do that by. I'm not a football coach. I don't teach guys how to strike and block and tackle, whatever. But you look at the movements on a football field and you break it down. What are the attributes that you need to have to be a great striker? You need to have a big, strong chest. You need to be able to have a tight core so you can transfer that force from your hips into your hands, all those things. So we go and train those attributes. Start with core, anti-rotational core, shoulder stability. Like it doesn't matter how strong you are if you don't have the stability to put that force in the direction you want it to go. So whether it's sprinting, putting the force down and back into the turf to go forward, or if it's striking, putting that force into your opponent. There's three phases of any type of training. You've got to strengthen, whether it's literal strength or strengthening the skill. You got to become more powerful at it, meaning you got to be able to do it faster with strength, and then you have to practically apply it to the sport that you're doing, whether it's striking, running, tackling, blocking, whatever.
Coach, could you talk about some of the players who have most impressed you, and also some of the coaches say that you also train the mind, not just the body?
So do you want me to talk about players that impressed me or the mind?
Players that have impressed you first. And
so
why?
Players that impressed me first, take a roster, start at the top and read it all the way down to the bottom. I know, and no disrespect, I know the media, y'all love to pinpoint single guys, and I wish I could.
Right.
But coming in a new program the last 9 months, I've been blown away by every single kid in this organization. Okay. It's been absolutely phenomenal from top to bottom. The weakest guys have made some of the strongest gains. So are we valuing the people who've made the most improvement, or the people who are the best of the best of the best? You guys know who the best of the best are. Every single young guy, every single true freshman, and sophomore. I mean, the gains that they've made have been unreal. And for me to single any 1, 2, 3, 5 guys out would be a disservice to everybody else.
Okay. And the mental aspect of what you do?
Well, I mean, everything starts in the mind. I mean, you have to think about, like, I ask everybody in our first meeting, hey, what's your favorite subject? So raise your hand if math is your favorite subject. And you have a handful of guys put their hands on it. So what if I tell you as a football player, your best subject is math? Everybody kind of looks at you crazy with their eyes crossed. I said, well, think about this. As a quarterback, you drop back and throw a football. You're doing high-level physics, high-level projectile problem, right? As a defensive back, if I'm taking an angle, as a running back's running a swing route that has a curve to it, and I've got to take an angle to intercept that guy near the sideline, I mean, that's high-level calculus. Every time that you jump and know exactly where you're landing and redirect in another direction, I mean, you're doing high-level math. We're talking about NASA and NASCAR numbers here, the amount of like scientific math equations that go on in your head as an athlete. And you might not even realize it because a lot of these guys are God-gifted, talented athletes. But if we can take that gift and actually train it and hone it and increase our ability to use this high-level mental operation to become a better football player, great. But the other side of that is understanding the emotional and mental and psychological aspect to being in control of our body. We preach neutral thinking, which is neither positive nor negative, because in the grand scheme of things, negativity, we don't know that positivity works. We do know that negativity works, and it works negatively 100% of the time. So if we don't know if positive works, and we know that negative does work and it works negatively, then we try to spend as much time as we can thinking neutral. And thinking neutral is going to the facts. Doesn't matter what the situations are. Assess the facts. What's the situation? What's the next thing? How do we do? How do we move forward? What's the next thing to do? Because being mad about it or being excited about it doesn't help you make the play. So we use a defensive example. 4th and 1, we need a stop. The negative of that is if we don't get the stop, we lose. Okay, the positive of that is we're going to get the stop. The problem is neither of those have anything to do with how do we get the stop, right? So you say 4th and 1, we need to stop. The next question is how do I do it? What's my assignment? What's my alignment? What's my eye discipline? What's my hand placement? What's the play called? Where do I go? If this, then that. That's what you focus on if you want to make a big play. And when your guys are focused on what they have to do to make the big play doesn't seem so big. It's just part of what we do.
Coach, there's some guys who got in here a little late, obviously, because they transferred over the summer or whatever. Just curious how you sort of take them to prepare them for the season. Obviously, the beginning of the program is long. Do you take shortcuts? How do you sort of get them ready for the year?
I mean, we pick up where we are. I tell guys when we take breaks, hey, we're going to take a break, and we're not going to pick up where we left off. We're going to pick up where we should be had you gone home and trained on your own the way you're supposed to. So when guys come in the program, regardless of their conditioning level, their training level, whatever, guys coming in phase 2 after spring ball, phase 2 is phase 2. It's the last 4 weeks that we're going to have to build absolute strength for the season. And then once we get into phase 3, everything is about football-specific force production. It's about getting better in the modalities that are going to help us be better football players. So if a guy comes in after phase 2, he's going to roll at the strength level he has. It is what it is. I mean, they're going to get stronger because they're going to train, but everything's got a plan and a purpose. It's just like you do certain things at certain parts of practice. If you look at practice from warm-up to indie to group to half line to 7-on-7 to team, it grows from the most simple part of it to the most complex part of it. Where our off-season is exactly the same. And just because you come in 30 minutes late to practice doesn't mean we're going to go start back over at indies, right? You got to be where you are. And so, unfortunately, you do get guys sometimes halfway through a cycle or through a training program, but you onboard them as quickly as you can. You assess their deficiencies, you fix their imbalances, and then you help them catch up. The good news is when you have guys like this, especially when you're starting a new program, everybody's starting at 0, right? We start at 0 and we progress as fast as we can. So.
What is your overall assessment on the speed of the team?
We're a very fast team.
How's it compared to maybe other teams?
Very fast. Very fast.
Avante Williams said that statement to me the other day, be where your feet are. Could you explain that concept?
It's the definition of focus. It's when your subconscious mind and your conscious mind are in the exact same place, and that same place is where your body is. So you can, if I were to ask you what's the definition of focus? What is focus?
Staring at the wall really hard and thinking about what you're, yeah.
I mean, that could be, but again, that's one example of someone being focused on one thing. Focus is when your subconscious mind and your conscious mind are in the same place. For example, your wife gave you this long text. You saw a text right before you walked up to this interview, and you're in trouble. And you thinking about that instead of asking the right questions and recording all this stuff, right? Your subconscious mind is not where your conscious mind is. Okay, you can be focused on something that's not in front of you. You could be focused on a test that you're going to take later this afternoon. That's fine. But for us, we're physical beings. We have to be present where we are physically, whether we're in a meeting at practice, in a lift, in a run, whatever it is, be 100% focused, subconscious mind and conscious mind in the exact same place as our feet so that we can dominate whatever's in front of us.
You had 2 offensive linemen that squatted over 700 pounds. What does accomplishments like that do for the whole organization, just in terms of lighten everybody up?
It's really cool for those guys. I'm really proud of them. All-time records, whatever. But my question, when people ask me questions like that, what's the number a guy has to back squat to be the best lineman that ever played the game? What's that number? I don't know either. So we don't focus on maxes. I think it's great for them. We high-fived them. We hugged them. We celebrated. It was a big deal. We don't really chase maxes. As a matter of fact, if all we did that day was show up to try to squat as heavy as possible, they both probably could have squatted more than that. But that's never been our focus. Our focus is about getting better at football. So we celebrate benchmarks and maxes when they happen, but we don't make a big deal out of it because in the reality, football players are supposed to be strong. So that's kind of how we do that.
Last question for Coach Feld to come from Chris.
Particularly the defensive line group. Give your thoughts on how they did this summer, maybe some numbers or things you're impressed by.
The defensive line group, I mean, like I said, just like everybody, they crushed it. They all got stronger. They all got bigger. The guys that needed to lose weight lost weight. The guys that needed to gain weight gained weight. Everybody got faster. Everybody got stronger. It's hard for me to pinpoint any one specific guy. I mean, I know a lot of them posted their own body comps and all that stuff, and that's awesome. But really, the reality is, like, what are they going to do on the football field? That's why we do all of this stuff. And so any one of those guys would trade a 700-pound squat max or a 500-pound bench max or a body composition or a top speed for the ability to play football better. So these guys don't care about how much they can bench press, back squat, power clean, because they only care about those numbers because they help them get better at football. That's what they're focused on, and that's what we focus on. So until I see it translate to the field, numbers in the weight room, I mean, we're here to get better at football, not lifting weights. So
Thank you very much.